Open the bag, or we're calling the police. The words cracked across the boutique louder than the jazz on the speakers. Every shopper froze, eyes shifting as security guards closed in on the black woman standing calmly by the jewelry case. Denise Carter didn't flinch. Her hands rested lightly on her purse, a purse that had suddenly become guilty just for existing on her shoulder. "This is harassment," she said, her voice steady, clear, carrying across the suddenly silent store. "You've followed me since I walked in here. You're accusing me because I'm black, and I will not submit to this humiliation." Phones went up, flashes of light in trembling hands. The crowd was gathering, sensing drama. The guards took another step closer, puffing up on authority, and one spat into his mic. "Code 10, Crystal's Boutique. Black female. Refusing." The mall atmosphere shifted in an instant, from ordinary weekend shopping to a public arrest. They thought she was powerless. They thought she'd bow her head and comply. What they didn't know, what none of them could see, was the badge tucked into her jacket. 2 decades of service, a captain's rank, and a reputation that commanded respect. But not here. Not like this. Because in Greenwood Mall, Denise Carter was just another black woman to be cornered, accused, and paraded out for show. And in one explosive moment, arrogance was about to meet its reckoning. The boutique, once filled with soft jazz and perfume, was now a stage, and Denise Carter had been cast as the criminal. The manager's heels clicked sharply on the polished floor as she marched forward, arms folded, face tight with carefully staged outrage. "I saw her slip something into that bag," the woman announced loudly, making sure every shopper in earshot could hear. Her tone carried the certainty of wealth, weaponized confidence sharpened by prejudice. Denise turned, calm but unyielding. "That is an absolute lie." The tall security guard, Miller, puffed his chest and moved closer. His shadow swallowed her modest navy sweater under the warm boutique lights. Davis, the smaller guard beside him, avoided her eyes, his nerves betraying doubt. Phones rose higher. Shoppers angled for a better view. This was no longer a misunderstanding. It was a spectacle. The crowd devoured the scene, whispering, recording, becoming silent accomplices to humiliation. "You heard the lady?" Miller barked, resting his hand near his baton. "Open the purse. Do it now." Denise straightened her back, drawing on the authority that had carried her through 2 decades in uniform. She wasn't just a woman standing by a jewelry case. She was a captain who had led raids, sat across from corrupt officers in interrogation rooms, and never bowed. "No," she said firmly, voice cutting like steel. "You have no probable cause. This is racial profiling, and I will not comply." The boutique's glass door banged open. A new figure stepped in, Officer James Raines. Badge gleaming, smirk already curling on his lips. His stride was heavy with practiced intimidation, the kind he wore like a second skin. "What have we got here?" he boomed, loud enough for the corridor outside to hear. The title officer on his chest should have meant protection. But everyone in that boutique already felt the truth. This wasn't help. This was escalation. "This one's refusing a search," Miller said quickly, eager to pass the leash upward. Raines's cold eyes scanned Denise, settling on her purse as though the verdict was already written. "Always the same story, isn't it?" he muttered, shaking his head with theatrical disgust. Then louder, "Hands where I can see them. Now." The manager folded her arms with victorious satisfaction. The guards shifted closer. The crowd leaned in. Denise Carter did not move, because she knew exactly what was coming. She'd read the reports, heard the complaints, seen this officer's name too many times attached to too many incidents. And now it was her turn under his thumb. What James Raines didn't know, what Miller, Davis, Linda the manager, and every gawking bystander didn't know, was the truth tucked inches from her heart. The badge, the rank, the power they were about to collide with. But first, she would endure their arrogance, and then she would end it. The boutique glass trembled as Officer James Raines made his move. One moment, Denise was standing tall, her voice steady. The next, smash. Her shoulders slammed against the display wall, glass cases rattling as bracelets and watches clinked dangerously. The crowd gasped in unison. "Hands behind your back," Raines snarled, his mouth near her ear. Now. This is excessive force, Denise said loud enough for every camera to capture, her tone calm but burning with fire. I haven't taken a thing. You are violating my rights. Rights? Rains barked out a laugh. His grip tightened, twisting her arms until her wrists burned. You've got the right to shut up while I add resisting arrest to your charges. Click. The handcuffs locked in place. Too tight, deliberately cruel. The boutique floor had gone silent except for the buzzing of phones recording every second. Dozens of lenses framed the image. A dignified black woman in a sweater and jeans dragged like a criminal through gleaming showcases of fine jewelry. The manager, Linda, smirked from behind the counter. The guard stood proud, puffed up, as if they'd just caught a prize. And Officer James Rains paraded her through the glass doors into the open mall, his voice booming. Performative. Should have cooperated, lady. Now look, the mall corridor froze. Families stared. Children clutched their parents. Shoppers pressed against storefronts, holding glowing rectangles in the air. Thousands of angles, thousands of witnesses, every second immortalized online before the cuffs were cold on her wrists. Denise Carter didn't cry out. She didn't plead, she lifted her chin, shoulders square despite the pain, eyes locked on the crowd, steady and unbroken. Because she knew something these men did not. She was no shoplifter. She was no suspect. She was no nobody. She was a police captain. And in moments, arrogance would collide with truth, and truth never comes quietly. The afternoon. Light spilled harshly through the mall's glass atrium as Officer James Rains dragged Denise toward the exit in handcuffs. Move, he barked, shoving her forward. Crowd wants a show. Let's give them one. Dozens of phones followed. Some shoppers shouted protests. Others gasped into their live streams. She didn't steal anything. This doesn't look right. Rains smirked, ego swelling with the spotlight. Should have just opened the bag, he sneered loud enough for cameras. Would have been easier for everyone. And then, Denise stopped walking. In front of hundreds of eyes, she planted her feet, lifted her chin. Her wrists still cuffed behind her back, she turned to face the crowd. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Before this goes one step further, you need to know something, Officer Rains. The officer rolled his eyes, grip tightening on her arm. Save it. No, she said, voice rising, steady, undeniable. I am Captain Denise Carter, 15th Precinct. 20 years on the force. And you've just assaulted a ranking police officer for shopping while black. The words detonated like thunder. The crowd roared, gasps, shouts, disbelief. Phones leaned closer to capture every detail. The smug mask on Rains's face cracked instantly, his confidence draining as murmurs spread like wildfire. She's a cop? She's a captain? Oh my God, he cuffed a captain. The guards froze, jaws dropping, radios trembling in their hands. The boutique manager's triumphant smirk collapsed into horror, and Rains' sweat broke across his brow. He quickly fumbled at her jacket pocket, pulling free the badge glinting gold in the California sun. He held it up, hand trembling, pretending authority even as his voice cracked. This could still be fake. The crowd answered for him. No way. Check the number. She's real. That badge is real. Phones zoomed on the shield, beaming the truth across every corner of the internet. Denise's eyes locked on Rains's, calm, steady. Her words carried through the microphone boom of dozens of live streams. You've profiled me, harassed me, dragged me through this mall in handcuffs in front of witnesses, and now the whole world knows exactly who you are. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was judgment, heavy and damning. For the first time all day, Rains looked small, and everyone watching knew the real arrest had already begun. The mall corridor was trembling with noise now. Not whispers anymore, but shouts, chants, raw public outrage. She's a captain. Take the cuffs off. Justice for Carter. The name had already spread like wildfire. Every screen, every phone, every live stream was carrying the moment to thousands who weren't even in the mall, and Officer James Rains knew it. His smirk was gone. His hands twitched as the badge glared back at him in the shopper's cameras. For the first time, sweat rolled down his temple, the certainty in his voice replaced by cracks of panic. This doesn't change anything. he barked with a bravado that sounded thinner by the second. She resisted. That's still what? Denise's voice sliced through him, steady even with the cuffs cutting into her wrists. Still black? Still a woman your system thinks you can humiliate? Tell everyone watching what crime I committed. Rains faltered. The crowd surged closer. Dozens of lenses zoomed on his face, every twitch, every bead of sweat amplified. One teenager shouted from the back, "This is going viral already. 200,000 views." The chanting spread wider. Let her go. Let her go! The guards who'd started this farce shuffled backward, suddenly unsure of their footing. The boutique manager who had called the accusation stood frozen, red-faced, realizing her performance had collapsed. And at the center, Denise Carter. Not defeated. Not humiliated. She stood taller despite the cuffs, her voice ringing over the bedlam. This is the truth you tried to hide. This is what it means to be black in America, that even a police captain cannot walk into a boutique without being treated like a criminal. The crowd exploded in cheers, agreement, rage. People clapped, others raised fists. A mother lifted her young daughter onto her shoulders, shouting, "This is what courage looks like." Rains's face twisted like cornered prey. He tugged at her arm, trying to drag her toward the exit, but the crowd pressed in too tight. Phones lit the corridor like stars of judgment, 1,000 unblinking witnesses ready to devour every second. Denise didn't resist. She didn't need to. The power had already shifted, because this arrest wasn't about law anymore. It was about exposure, and with every camera pointed at him, Officer Rains was already the one in chains. The mall was no longer a shopping center. It was a courtroom. And every bystander was now a juror with a camera for a gavel. "Let her go," someone shouted. Then another voice, "We've got it all on video, live!" Within seconds, the chant ignited again, spreading like electricity through the atrium. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Phones lifted higher. Screens glowed in every corner. Some were recording for proof, others broadcasting straight to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, with comments exploding in real time. "She's literally a captain. They profiled her. This is systemic. See how quickly they lied? The truth is trending." A man in his 60s, sharp voice cutting through the roar, stepped out from the onlookers. "She never touched anything. I watched from the start. That manager is lying. She accused her the second she walked in. I saw it too," a young Latina mother called out from the stroller lane. "They followed her before she even went inside. This was targeted." Piece by piece, voice by voice, the entire narrative broke apart. The boutique manager's face collapsed into pale panic. Her accusations drowned out by a flood of eyewitness testimony she could never overpower. Rains barked, desperate. "Stay back. Interfering with police procedure is a crime." But already he was outnumbered, outflanked, outfilmed. Because for the first time, authority didn't wear a uniform. It wore 1,000 live streaming screens, broadcasting truth faster than any police report could bury it. Denise lifted her chin, the cuffs biting into her skin but her spirit untouchable. She looked at the crowd, not as a victim pleading, but as a leader charging them with responsibility. "Don't you dare put those phones down," she told them, her voice carrying. "The truth lives in your hands now. Witness it, share it, make sure the world sees what they've done here today." A wave of cheers erupted, hands went higher, screens pulsed brighter, and in that moment, Denise Carter was no longer just a black shopper in handcuffs. She was the beating pulse of a movement, her dignity amplified by every single person who refused to stay quiet. Rains's jaw clenched, his smirk long gone. The badge in his hand gleamed under the skylights, undeniable, unshakable, and yet he still couldn't let go. "This isn't over," he shouted, voice cracking, desperation boiling into fury. He yanked Denise roughly by the arm and shoved her forward again. "Keep moving now." The crowd erupted. Boos, shouts, fists in the air. One teenager's voice broke the chaos. "She's a captain, you idiot!" "We're streaming this live. Everyone's watching." 500,000 views. Another shouted, waving her phone in the air. 500,000 and climbing. Rains froze for a heartbeat, his eyes darting to the glowing screens now pointed like weapons at his face. Each one a courtroom jury. Each one a guillotine. But instead of stepping back, he doubled down. His hand pressed harder against Denise's back, forcing her toward the exit, voice dripping venom, meant for every watching ear. You think that badge makes you untouchable? You think rank changes what you are? He spat the last word with pointed disgust. Doesn't matter if you're a captain or the commissioner. You're just another mouthy black woman who doesn't know when to shut up. The words slapped the entire mall into stunned silence. Even the guards stared at him wide-eyed. Then the roar came. Boos, gasps, outrage, exploding like wildfire. She said it's racial. He just proved it. You're done, Rains. The crowd swelled forward, some chanting, others raising fists, dozens more narrating live to invisible audiences. Y'all are seeing this, right? He said it on camera. For the first time, Rains's authority cracked, not just in words, but in posture. His grip loosened, his eyes darted side to side like a cornered animal. He realized with chilling clarity his weapon wasn't the badge. His weapon wasn't the cuffs. His weapon wasn't even authority. It had always been silence, and silence was gone forever. Denise, still chained in iron, straightened even taller, her voice ironclad. Thank you, Officer Rains. You just told the world exactly who you are, the mall thundered with approval. The chant rolled again, deafening, unstoppable. Justice! 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 The breaking point had come. His arrogance had overreached. And now the system's mask was ripped away for everyone to see. The chanting shook Greenwood Mall's marble floors. Rains's words had burned themselves into history, caught in 1,000 clips, broadcast live to the world. But even as the crowd pressed closer, the machine moved to protect him. Stop filming, cried Linda, the boutique manager, her voice rising above the roar. She wrung her hands, putting on a mask of false authority. This is a simple misunderstanding. She refused a lawful order. You people don't understand the full picture. We saw the picture, someone shouted back, a teen's voice. We saw you follow her into the store before she even touched anything. Another added, I got that on video too. Uploading right now. But Linda doubled down, louder now, her confidence drawn from years of getting away with it. She was aggressive. She threatened me. I felt unsafe. Gasps. The oldest tactic had been unleashed. Flip the script. Make the black woman the aggressor. For a second, the narrative wavered, just for a second, because some wanted to give the manager the benefit of the doubt. Until the video played. A bystander near the front held her phone out for everyone to see, grainy footage of Linda whispering to Rains before Denise ever entered the boutique. Linda nodding, Rains smirking, waiting. The crowd exploded with fury. Set up! We see the lies! It was a trap. Linda's face drained of color, the mask shattering. She stumbled back toward her counter, but there was nowhere to hide. Another officer arrived, Sergeant Reeves, uniform sharp, voice firm. Clearly dispatched not for justice, but for damage control. Folks, let's calm down, he said, raising his hands in practiced authority. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Please disperse, we'll handle this internally. Internally. The word tasted rotten in the air. The crowd knew exactly what it meant. Sweep it under the rug, rewrite the reports, bury the evidence, save the officer. But this time, there was no rug big enough because dozens of phones shouted back with truth. She's a captain. You're gaslighting us. Everything's on live. Internally won't save you anymore. Reeves's cool evaporated under the burning glare of public exposure. The shield of silence had cracked in two, and at the center, Denise Carter, still in cuffs, head held high, looked straight into every camera, every witness, every eye. This is how it works, she declared. They accuse, they lie, they rewrite. But today? Not anymore. You're all witnesses. Don't let them erase this moment. Hold them to it. The roar shook the walls. Phones were lifted higher. Gaslighting drowned under the sound of unbreakable truth, and suddenly, Denise was no longer the one on trial. The system itself was. The chanting rolled like thunder down Greenwood Mall's corridor. The loudspeakers piping smooth jazz were useless now. Nothing could compete with hundreds of voices rising in unison. Justice for Carter. Justice for Carter! Phones streamed. Comments flew. News alerts began to pop across screens. Captain arrested in mall profiling incident. Crowd erupts as off-duty officer reveals badge. The world was watching. But inside those cuffs, Denise Carter stood straighter, calmer than anyone else. Her voice, steady and ironclad, rose above the storm. Listen to me. Filming was the first step. Testifying, that's the next. Don't just record this moment and walk away. Stand with me, because what happened to me today happens to countless others every day, with no cameras, no witnesses. Don't let this end as just a story. Make it the start of change. The crowd quieted, not silenced, but focused. Her words fell heavy, carried on live streams flooding across the city. An older man held up his phone. It's already viral, Captain. But we'll do more. We'll show up, a woman in scrubs shouted from the back. I'm calling the council right now. They'll hear us at City Hall. A teenager waved her phone proudly. Justice for Carter is trending. You're not alone. The atmosphere shifted, from pure outrage into organized energy. Mall shoppers became protesters. Witnesses became activists. A crowd became a movement. Even children were chanting with their parents, fists raised in mimicry of courage they barely understood but would never forget. The once gleaming boutique behind them, quiet, cowering staff inside, had become the symbol of something far larger, the tipping point. And Denise Carter, profiled, mocked, battered, dragged, was no longer just the subject of an arrest. She was the embodiment of resistance. The handcuffs on her wrists meant nothing anymore, because the chains had already been broken. The chants shook the building. Security radios buzzed uselessly. Officer James Raines stood drowning in his own arrogance, his authority stripped under the weight of 1,000 unblinking witnesses, and in the middle of it all, Denise Carter stood tall. Her wrists were still in steel, red lines carved against her skin from the cuffs, but her spirit was untouched. The crowd parted instinctively, dozens of cameras rising as she lifted her voice over the roar. Today they thought I was just another black woman to humiliate. They thought I would bow, they thought I would break. But I did what I've done every day for 20 years. I stood tall. And now, with all of you watching, we cannot go back to silence. Gasps turned into cheers. A woman near the front shouted, "We've got you, Captain!" Another, "We'll stand with you." Denise turned slowly, meeting the eyes of the guards, of the manager, of Raines himself. "Let this moment be a warning," she continued, her voice resonant, spreading through every live stream and newsfeed. "Accountability has arrived. Witness it. Share it, carry it. Because racism hides in silence. But today there is no silence." The deafening chant rose one last time, shaking the glass rafters of Greenwood Mall. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" And in that moment, cuffs or not, Captain Denise Carter was the most powerful person in the building. Not because of a badge, not because of a title, but because she refused to be silent, and taught everyone watching that they didn't have to be either.